For years, the Rainbow Six Siege GOAT debate was mostly dominated by two players, Shaiiko and Pengu. One of them represented the greatest dynasty Siege had ever seen, and the other represented the highest individual performance we've ever seen from a player. But after years of dominance, multiple championships, and some of the most iconic performances in Siege history, a new challenger entered the debate, Cyber. He's got Rainbow Six Siege's elusive triple crown, the SI twice, once in 2025 and then in 2026, a major back in 2021, and recently the Esports World Cup 2026. So essentially, Cyber has completed Rainbow Six Siege. And now people are saying something that would sound absolutely ridiculous a few years ago. Cyber might just be the greatest Siege player we've ever seen. But is it really that simple? Because while Cyber has arguably the strongest case we've ever seen, two absolute legends are standing right behind him. So today, let's settle the debate. Is Cyber actually the GOAT of Rainbow Six Siege? Before Cyber entered the conversation, Pengu was the name associated with greatness. He wasn't just a player who won tournaments. He was the architect of the greatest dynasty Siege has ever seen. That era was just simply as special. G2 wasn't just winning, they were dominating. They were the final boss of Rainbow Six Siege. Pengu's biggest strength wasn't just his mechanics. He understood Siege on a completely different level. His positioning, his decision making, and his ability to play almost any operator made him one of the greatest players of all time. His argument is simple. It defined what greatness looked like. But the biggest questions around Pengu's case is first, his longevity, and then the era that he played in. Obviously, the competition now in 2026 is much deeper. The strats are just like simply crazy. There's just a lot of complicated shit going on in Siege right now. But back then it was way simpler. Can we compare the dominance in 2018 to what we see today in 2026? But I do not really believe in this argument. I think this is bullshit. People really neglect this point. Cyber was playing Siege back in 2018 too. He was a pro too. If the era was like so easy and it was like the plumber era, why wasn't it Cyber who won all of those trophies? Why was it that G2 and Pengu just simply looked unbeatable? Like back in 2018, Cyber was basically invisible. The people like are misunderstanding the words easy and simple. Siege back then wasn't easy. It was just simpler. And we can't really compare Pengu's longevity to Cyber's longevity. Yeah, you can like bring up this argument that like early on his career, Cyber was like not really doing much, and like somehow suddenly he became the GOAT of Siege, winning everything back to back. But he's been playing Siege for a long time, so we have to give him that. Then we have Shaiiko, and if there is only one player who can challenge Cyber's individual ability, it's gonna be him. At his peak, Shaiiko was a human cheat code. His mechanical ability, movement, and sheer confidence to take the fights most people wouldn't even consider made him the most terrifying opponent to face. If you're just simply looking at the numbers, Cyber might be the player that stands out. Cyber's fans usually bring up one major point. Cyber has the most kills in Rainbow Six Siege history. At the first glance, it just looks like an open and shut argument. But when you actually break up the math, a completely different story unfolds. Yes, Cyber has the highest kill count in Siege history, but he also has the most deaths. And to get those kills, Cyber has played roughly more than 1,000 rounds than Shaiiko. When you level the playing field and look at the per round stats, Shaiko's stats are still untouchable. His kill per round, better than Cyber. His cost percentage, still better than Cyber. His overall rating and KD, Shaiiko wins again. And ever since Shaiiko has returned to professional Rainbow Six Siege after his 2-year ban was ended, he has been an absolute fixture in the top 4 of 6 stats. More importantly, he has been named CGG's Player of the Year twice. And Cyber, despite all of that success, had never taken that number 1 spot home. While Cyber has played longer, racked up more total stats, Shaiiko has been doing way more with less. So basically, when Shaiiko loads into a round, he's more likely to completely take over the match rather than anybody else. And Shaiiko isn't also without hardware. He won the Jacoba Major in 2022, multiple Gamers 8 and Esports World Cup titles, and like a billion second finishes in SIs and Majors. But Shaiko's good argument hits a brick wall when you bring up the 6 Invitational. And ironically, the only 6 Invitational Grand Final that Shaiiko has ever played was back in 2025 versus Cyber himself and FaZe Clan, which BDS lost. And this is exactly where Cyber becomes the most interesting player in Siege, because most GOAT candidates have one flaw in their resume. Some have stats but not trophies, some have trophies but not stats, some have legacy but not that much of a longevity, and on and on and on. Cyber is the exception. He has the trophies, he kind of do have the longevity, he's got the consistency, the dominance, the stats, and everything. But the biggest criticism against Cyber is that he has often not even been the best player on FaZe Clan itself, let alone being the GOAT of the game. Throughout his successful era with FaZe Clan, he was surrounded by elite teammates. You don't win back-to-back SI hammers with an average team. But the question isn't whether Cyber had a great team or not. The question is whether he was just there along for the ride. And the stats say absolutely not. You can have world-class teammates and still be the catalyst that elevates them into a dynasty. But a player that is just kind of being pushed into the shadows is Handy. Handy has often been the best player on FaZe Clan. Handy had some absolutely great tournaments, even better numbers and stats than Cyber. But it's not like that Cyber was there getting hard carried by Handy, not doing anything, just waiting for the guy to clutch all the 1v5s so that they can win the tournament. It's never been like that. Cyber's career proves that he's not just there benefiting from a winning system. He's often been the engine alongside Handy. Handy deserves more respect. So, the $1 billion question. Is Cyber the GOAT? And after looking at all the three cases, I believe that Cyber currently holds the strongest argument. Not because he has had the highest individual peak we've ever seen. That belongs to Shaiiko. Not because we have seen one of the most dominant eras and consistency from him. That belongs to Pengu. Yes, Cyber has won back-to-back SIs and the EWC, but the tournaments he won was like kind of far apart, honestly. Pengu and the Prime Penta and G2 roster won the back-to-back SIs and literally everything between them. That's a different kind of dominance. Cyber is the GOAT because he combines everything. He has got the best of both worlds. Elite achievements, incredible longevity and consistency, and incredible flexibility with the operators on the biggest stages. Right now, Cyber sits alone at the top of the mountain. But this debate is a never-ending argument. Before we wrap up the video, guys, Siege fans, everybody watching this video, please stop just pushing other players into the debate. You know, I understand, like, if someone's GOAT list is like Canadian first, maybe Pengu second, Shaiiko third, Cyber fourth. Okay, I understand. Maybe someone has Pengu as the GOAT, maybe someone has Cyber as the GOAT, maybe someone even has Hertz as the GOAT. Okay, guys, I understand these. But this gets absolutely ridiculous when people saying like, Stompen is the GOAT, Spoit is the GOAT. Even Bolo, I believe, doesn't belong to the top. Yeah, he's won an SI, but just a fucking 6 invitational, nothing else. It's not just about the trophies, it's not just about the pure stats, it's not just about the mechanical ability. You gotta have like at least a few of something.